Christians celebrate Palm Sunday on April 5th. This video is about the first Palm Sunday, or as I like to call it, the greatest show on earth, Jesus' Oscar-deserving performance. It took place on the Sunday before he was executed. The premise is found in Zechariah 9:16. Zechariah is a 4th to 5th century Old Testament book. Jesus would have been well aware of it. The particular verse describes how the Jewish people's king and savior would arrive in Jerusalem riding on a donkey. The situation represented a unique opportunity for Jesus. Let's not forget, Jesus was a rebel of the highest order. In reading the Bible, I sometimes fear we get caught up in a divinity claim and his controversial rebel nature falls through the crack. I picture him as a modern-day Dennis Rodman without the body-piercing smoke and neon. When socio-religious rules said do not dine with sinners and tax collectors, what did Jesus do? He dined with sinners and tax collectors. When the rules forbade work on the Sabbath, what did he do? He worked on the Sabbath. Believing the temple was not the place for commerce, he ran the money changers out. After a controversial sermon, the congregation tried to throw him over a cliff. Fortunately, he got away. His mother and family once came to get him, saying he had lost his mind. He openly criticizes Jewish leadership. He refuses to give a would-be follower time off to bury his father. At his trial, he snubs the Jewish king of Galilee, won't answer his questions. He says to sell everything and give the money to the poor. Jesus was not a normal person. I hope to be like him when I grow up. But the stage is set. A crowd is in town for the annual Passover feast. Dim the lights, everybody to your seats. It's showtime. In Matthew's account, it was a Sunday. Arriving at the Mount of Olives after a 15-mile walk from Jericho, Jesus instructs his disciples to go into the city where they will find a tethered ass and a colt. He tells them to bring them to him, which they did, without the owner's permission. Today there would be repercussions. When they returned with the animals, they laid their cloaks over them, and Jesus mounted both of them. It must have been a strange sight, with Jesus riding both the ass and the colt. I visioned something like the opening circus act. But Matthew is being cautious, covering all of his bases. It seems a very large crowd had gathered to greet him, laying blankets and tree branches in his path. The large gathering is strange also, for, according to the Synoptic Gospels, this was Jesus' first trip to Jerusalem, or any big city as far as that goes. Yet large crowds were there to greet him. The reputation of this ragtag rabbi from lowly Galilee somehow preceded him. When reaching the temple, he entered, went berserk, and drove out the money changers. This too is odd, for currency exchange was important to the Passover celebration to accommodate the diasporas in Jesus. Is Jesus looking for a fight? Mark and Luke add little to the story, although they, thankfully, only have Jesus ride one animal. In Mark, the temple cleansing occurs later in the week. In John, the leafy branches held by the crowd were from palm trees. The only problem here is there are no palm trees in Jerusalem. In John, the temple cleansing took place earlier in Jesus' ministry. As Jesus was making his way into Jerusalem, another parade was taking place some 75 miles away. It was Passover week, and a swollen population gave opportunity for social unrest. So much so that Pontius Pilate and his military brigade were on the march from his headquarters at Caesarea. It must have been quite a sight. A pompous parade headed for Jerusalem from one direction, a scruffy one from another, and Jewish leadership fuming that a ragtag rabbi from lowly Galilee would impersonate their long-awaited Savior King. On this first Palm Sunday, rebel Jesus got a twofer. He mocked only Old Testament prophecy concerning the triumphant entry of Israel's Savior King into Jerusalem, but he also mocked the pomp and might of Pilate's military parade. Jesus was an in-your-face kind of guy, and it was showing on the first Palm Sunday. In the Catholic tradition, Palm Sunday services began by blessing of the palms and celebrating the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy. I can't see it. Jesus for sure knew in advance of the prophecy and set actions in motion to fulfill it. Palm Sunday is not about prophecy. It is a contrived situation, the opening act for a much greater history-changing show 4 days later. It was a show only a rebel could pull off. Something meaningful happened on the start of the first Holy Week. The mocking of the parade, the wrecking of the temple, and the in-your-face attitude he displayed at his trial point to a man who was looking for trouble. He had death on his mind and the defeat thereof on the agenda. That he did, but unfortunately, the early church fathers deemed his subsequent resurrection a miracle, making it all for naught, permanently removing that which happened from the capacity of common people like me and you. I hate it. I hate it that today's church leaders know there was no Easter Sunday miracle, but stubbornly refuse to pass it along to the congregants who are paying the bills. Deny it if you wish, but I know it is taking place. Anyway, enjoy the Palm Sunday service. I won't be there. Of course, you won't be there either because of the nationwide stay-in-place order. But you'll get to watch it on TV. At the appropriate time afterwards, ask the celebrant about the truth of the first Palm Sunday. Be a rebel. Jesus would like that. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.